here for what's who to ask that question with the wrinkled eyebrow already is an indicator that they don't know what's up. You know what I mean? And the principle that applies to that is the same principle in the Bible when it says, how can you say that you love a God you do not see and love not your brothers and sisters whom you see every day? And the same principle applies. How can you claim to know a God who you don't see and you don't even understand the politics that's right in front of your face? I mean, it means exactly the same thing. I mean, and it's like this. How can you claim to know what a million and a million is when you don't know that 2 and 2 is 4? I mean, the principle applies across the board. And when you understand it, that same principle is based on which what is called the common law is based upon. And that principle is that the law begins with you. And a man who knows not himself has no claim of right on anything outside himself. You know, and this is back to the same principle that applies in the Dred Scott case, in the Amistad case. And very often people don't look at it like that because the lessons aren't really taught like that. They're taught to put people in this spooky sense of frame of mind. You know, and then the other deal is that many of the masses don't know that what is known as the common law is derived from what is known as divine law. And just because people may not go to church, church ain't wrong. What's happening is people's concept about what church is what's wrong. And the other issue is that the priesthood don't teach them, don't take them to church. They take them to the buildings in the name of church, when they're really spy centers for the popes of Rome under the Spanish Inquisition. However, it don't make church wrong. It's just that people don't get church. Only the priesthood gets church. You know, and this is why, like you see the average person, so many people or many generations go to church and don't know that church means circle. But then if they knew that, then the preacher would have to tell them, what is that circle? Ain't nothing wrong with circle, it's just that they ain't teaching it. That's the zodiac circle. And even the buildings are designed after the zodiac. Even the garb that they wear is designed after the zodiac. Well, no, it's true. You know, but the real, you know, that's why once in a while you go through the zodiac and then you tell the people ahead of time that you're taking them to church. You know, tell them that you're taking them to church. And so the deal of this, you know, when you understand, anybody that's conscious, and this is back to what we were talking about earlier, and this is when people don't know the history, they don't know how to measure people who take positions of authority. Meaning when they don't know the makeup of things. Just like people don't know that Constitution means makeup. You know, how is something constructed? You know, and constitutional principle is ancient on the planet from the beginning. Always had Constitution when you have extended family. Because the Constitution in the way or in structure of government and nationhood is identical in its character to what a family will is for the heirs. And just as a family will of a state of trust, of hereditaments, corporal and incorporeal, of all inheritances for the progeny, so are constitutions and treaties likewise, to protect the interest of the progeny. This is why when it boils down to law and right of claim, and when you understand these fundamental principles, they're very simple. You'll understand why many of the magistrates are telling a lot of these so-called European freedmen's groups, when they're trying to say they're sovereign Christians and state citizens and sovereign citizen type stuff like that, if you don't name the nation and the bloodline, you have no claim. This is why any constitution, but essentially, in other words, if you understand the principle, rather than get emotional and feel the abuse of power and the rejection, you recognize that they're not wrong. Is that the people aren't taught. And the people are having assumptions of rights that don't exist in their status. See, because you cannot have a claim of inheritance without the honor of your mothers and your fathers. This is where the rule comes. It says, honor thy mothers and thy fathers, that thy days may be longer upon the earth, land. It didn't say cloud. It's not an abstract. You're talking about estate, which the Lord thy God Allah has given you. And that's across the board, Muslim, Christian, Jew. Because it has nothing to do with what people call religion. These are divine principles. They are universal in their character. And any man, woman, or child does not confess their own is non-inheritable. It's called non-heritable. And logically, whoever the ruling party is or lord of the land, that's why they call landlord, can escheat the estate. This is where escheating comes. This is why so-called black people never acquire what is called old money, because their status is dead. And see, if they would just tell them the truth instead of start, projecting they don't like your color, because they make people think that color means identity when they know color means artificial person. A semblance, a simulacrum, distinguished from that which is real. So you get people to call themselves a fraud, then they go before the civilized world and look for human rights when they are outside the human family. This is why Durali says, do not practice those things that delude to slavery. Do not practice those things that delude to slavery, taking on those names and principles, which is what we have done. And it puts us in dishonor. But our people don't know it puts them in dishonor because they're not taught jurisprudence, because they don't know that jurisprudence and history go together. And that's because of the Rockefeller Foundation school system. To dumb them down. And this is back again where, our people consistently violate principles by filling in voids with beliefs rather than facts. Meanwhile, talking about their personal relationship with God, Jesus, Allah, Moses, Muhammad, Buddha, and everything. And it's a disgrace. It's actually contemptuous. This is again why, and it's unfair, because they know the people aren't taught. But this is one of the major bases upon which magistrates will find people in contempt when they continue talking, trying to preserve a right or talk about their rights. And 9 times out of 10, their conversation is totally wrong. They're actually in contempt, because you're contempt if you're not in honor of your mothers and fathers. Wow. Not only that, men are not excused, women are not excused, and even children are not excused. And then we start making excuses. But the rule is based on every man, woman, and child must confess their own. Not maybe, not could, not in a matter of your opinion. You must confess your own. Because if you don't confess your own, you have no inheritance. And the man that has no inheritance has no right to claim on any front. Now on the surface, people would take that as an unfair rejection. But if you know law, it's impersonal. How are you going to make a claim on an estate when you have no honor for your own bloodline? Your mothers and fathers are founders of civilization, you sit around talking about crayons. And then talk about rights. No, it doesn't work like that. And ignorance of the law is no excuse. Why? Because that's the basis upon which the law is built. You're either in honor or you're in dishonor. And if you're not in your bloodline, don't recognize your own bloodline, you have no inherited right, because your rights are inherited from those who came before you. And if people would teach just, and still trying to control people, tell them the truth. And then people, because in many ways our people have spent more energy being victims, even though we've been victimized, to the degree that they've passed the line of responsibility. Because there's a line of responsibility that every man, woman, and child has, that's your responsibility. then you get on that other hand and you look at the abuses of due process. Now you got an argument. But the first principle is that you must honor your mothers and fathers. And once you understand that principle, you'll understand the Dred Scott case. The Dred Scott case is the most important slave case that would come before the Supreme Courts of the United States. And what is the principle? People who are caught in the emotions talking racism and black and white. But the case says status. It says status. Then when you go to law dictionary, status and estate are equals. They're as big as day. You know, and it's in little areas like that that become big areas is where we are consistently in violation, and most of our people are not aware that they're in violation. And that is only because of the misteaching or the misdirection promoted by their so-called black leaders to protect their different clubs. When in truth, they know the truth. 90% of all of your so-called ministers are Masons while condemning Masonry across the pulpit. And then, you know, 99% of them got a skull and bones agreement called 501c3 while condemning skull and bones and demonology and Illuminati and everything, and they're part of it. But scholars know that, but the masses who don't have a background, who don't have knowledge, who don't know how to research, you know, they get caught in how they feel about it. They always talk about how they feel or what they believe, both of which are disqualifications. Because in law and in truth is what you know. Your beliefs are irrelevant. That's why anywhere on the planet, when there's an issue of jurisprudence or law, they will say, the principles before the court or before society has nothing to do with your beliefs. You keep your beliefs home. And when you come into those halls of learning or into a court of law, you understand what you know. And this is another reason. This is another reason why they will tell people, like for instance those are freemen, that you can't use the Constitution as a defense because you're not a party to it. There's two fronts that is. They gotta prove that they're descendants of the signers of the Constitution, founding fathers, or of Moorish descent, which is who the treaty was made with. And if they talk about white and black and anything else, it don't count. Huh? Say it again. Four-quarter rule contract. Yeah. Four-quarter rule contract. Yeah. The four quarters that paper. And a lot of times people be looking at the information or the statements that's in the Constitution and just take it for granted it applies to them. And it doesn't. And it would seem on the surface unfair, but it isn't unfair.
But then we go back to
Let's get that other mic. Yeah.
They talked about the treaty that even before the Constitution was signed, that any treaty or anything.
Yeah, Article 6.
Yeah.
Now listen to yourself. Now look at this. Yeah, in the preamble. Now look at that. Now say that again because we want it on record. Article 6, all debts contracts entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be binding against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. And all treaties made or which shall be made in pursuance thereof shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges of every state shall be bound thereby. Any laws or constitution of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. Now, what happens is people look at this and say, oh man, I got them, right? And don't understand. That's a will. And if you're not an heir, you have no claim. But that's not spoken of like that. And so people just say, I'm a citizen, I'm a U.S. citizen. Well, a U.S. citizen is not an American citizen. That's a private corporation for commerce and trade. And little things like that make all the difference in the world. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And because you're supposed to know, they're not, see, government is not there to tell you, you're supposed to tell them. Give me the mic, good.
We've been dumbing down for so long, it's like we don't know any better.
Now stop. Now listen to yourself. You drop some. Now listen to yourself. Say it again.
We've been dumbing down for so long that many of us we don't know any different.
Now stop. Now here comes the statement: tried and true and old as dirt. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. There is no excuse. In other words, as soon as you say that like that, unknowingly, you're already in contempt. And once you think it out and remove the emotions from it, not that what you said isn't wrong, but let's look at this. Can anyone in this room, honestly, with an honest heart, an honest tongue, say anything contrary to what I'm about to say? There's no people in the Americas that boast more about personal relationship with God, Jesus, Allah, Moses, Muhammad, Yahweh than our people. Rocking and rolling on every other corner, even if they half-step, that's basically their philosophy. Right?
Right.
Now, this is the rule. Let's look at the common law as it is used around the world. The common law is that ancient and archaic body of laws, of customs and traditions that come from the most antiquity immemorially amongst humanity. Why? Because it's based on the honor of your mothers and fathers, that your days may be longer upon the earth land, and it's from that principle that the common law is drawn. All constitutions and treaties have what is called known parties. Known parties mean the parties in the treaty must be identified. And so it is very clear, and Obama made it very clear when he went to Hikutu. He says, the first nation to recognize my country, and he says so nobody don't get all upset, is Morocco. And then you look at then he goes immediately to Article 11 of the Treaty of Tripoli, which is the series of the Indian Empire, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right, which supersedes the Constitution. And what is that? It's the Treaty of Morocco, between Morocco and the United States of America, and sealed by His Royal Majesty, Sidi Mohammed, during the Arthur St. Clair administration, 2 administrations before George was appointed to the palace. Now, if you and me and we are going to keep talking about Jesus, God, Allah, Moses, and Muhammad, we should at least know that which affects us most directly. Now, so what occurs when you're trying to use that Constitution to defend yourself and you start talking about you're black? You have no right of claim. Exactly. So no black man has any rights that any white man has any obligation to recognize. Why? Because it's a brand. It makes you non-descendable. Now, with us, if we're looking at it from the game that has been played, you know, with the Carlos Linnaeus and the Blumenbach game, which is caste system, and we're really thinking colors like crayons, although that's promoted, our concepts are wrong. As soon as you fall in that paradigm, you just gave up your birthright. And yes, like you say, it's a lack of knowledge. And yes, when Rockefeller set up their General Education Board in 1902 after they murdered Queen Wilhelmina in Philly, etc. To dumb the people down. Nevertheless, there's still nobody that walks around doing push carts every week talking about their special relationship with Jesus, and they know when God's going to kick the devil's butt. They know what the Bible really means, what the Torah really means, the Quran really means, and everything, and boast with arrogance and don't know themselves. Do you know in law that's contempt? That's absolute contempt. Go ahead, sign in, you guys. Huh?
Government.
Give him the mic. Give him the mic.
The word government. It could be religion, Christianity, Islam. Government. Control the mind. You know what I mean?
Governmental.
Plain and simple.
Governmental. And the principles are generally universal. You can have, people come from different nation states, and they'll come into what you call a united body, just like the United Nations. We're not talking about the compromission of it, we're just talking about the fact of it. Meaning that the fundamentals of civics have a universal nature and character. They're not so diverse that they're not understood. It's not unlike when they say music is universal, government is universal. You have different forms of government, whereas you have a different structure of administration, but the fundamental principles are still rooted the same. Whether you have singular or whether you have a grand body, but the fundamentals are the same, and you have a rule of order, which are called constitutions. And when they go off those constitutions, whether it's the people or the government, then you start getting anarchy and corruption. And so when the people do not preserve the principles in constitution, all governments become terrorists. And this is universal. And so the people's responsibility is to enforce the Constitution.
You're talking about Carlos Linnaeus.
Carlos Linnaeus.
And the other, and who was the other one?
Rubenbach.
But you said it was a caste system?
Yes, the caste system.
Caste, I never heard.
Caste.
Caste system.
Islam, bro.
It's a caste.
I think it might be.
These are they'll call them Carl, right? Carl, but it's actually
Carl Linnaeus.
that's who it really is. But this is how they will write it in history. Carl Linnaeus.
Linnaeus.
Yes.
Still there.
But it's actually Carolus Linnaeus. And then you have
Johann Blumenbach.
Johann. Frederick.
Blumenbach. Excuse my French. Right? And they set up the phenotypes and the racist game, the race game, or the phenotypes for the human race to hide the real history. And this is where you get the color code system that's used in the Census Bureau today. So when you have so-called black scholars that keep promoting that black thing, knowing that that's where it came from, and then don't teach the people that, is because they got the agenda to protect their so-called black organizations, because they usually got a 501c3 tax kickback agreement that they know that the average people who they've been controlling don't know about. And so this is why they usually will always consistently present emotional arguments about colors and race, things like that sound like they're working for the people's interests when they're actually put there by the CIA with their black box budget to keep the natives from getting residents,
Yeah.
or to keep them from being effective in their arguments. And once you understand these things, once you understand these fundamental things, all scholars know this. This is one of the disadvantages of the people, and one of the advantages that leadership has over the people, being aware that they are miseducated. Instead of educating them, they feed on that miseducation as if they're helping the people when they're actually promoting the dead status that they're suffering from. And this is why when you see a lot of scholars arguing about what black means and what it doesn't mean, the very fact that they're even arguing it indicates either COINTELPRO operations or disqualified persons, both of which disqualifies them. Give Brother Mike.
Just a quick question. Salam, my brother. Salam. Can you tell me how to word that? Like, I just wrote this down. Can you give me an explanation again so I can write down who these men are?
Oh, you get it in your lesson book. I'm gonna do it to you anyway, but I'm gonna tell you. Carlos Linnaeus, both of these are naturalists. All right, in the same line like
Darwin?
Dickens.
Darwin. Darwin.
Darwin. Yeah, like Darwin. Yeah. And it particularly Blumenbach, he set up the phenotypes, the skull sizes, brain sizes, etc., and created the paradigm of Caucasoid, when it really comes from Caucasus, from Dr. Yahu, middle name. See, this is what they have done is that they've written themselves into history, and they've taken the scientific achievements of actually the ancient Moabites, knowing that the people don't know that they're hybrids. See, so if the people knew that they were hybrids, they would know why Europeans are never called indigenous. They're never listed as indigenous or aboriginal anywhere, not even to Europe. Wow. Whenever they say aboriginals or indigenous, they're always talking about copper complexion people. Why? And it's coming from the European sociologist, because he knows he's the latecomer of what is known as modern man, i.e. the hybrid man. They're Moors too. They're just amalgamated Moors. The whole dynamics has been them stealing your birthright. Give Brother Mike. Whenever somebody raises their hand, give them a mic, please.
Would they also be considered deists?
The founding fathers are deists.
Yeah.
No, the founding fathers are deists.
Yeah.
And a deist, now this must be put in perspective too, because that's misunderstood by a lot of people. The priesthood or the bishopric will refer to deists as atheists. But you must know what they're saying when they say it. Good, you got something? Sometimes what they need. This is where you get. That's where you get that from. You know what that is?
No.
This is the proper name for
everybody got this on top? Yeah. Got that?
And the ending of that word, tweet, it means it doubles it.
well,
When you got tweet,
Tehuti,
well, it actually pronounced with a
Jehudi, and sometimes with an E, Jehudi.
Yeah.
Now this is where you get this from.
Yeah.
Now those European sons who are all Masons, who studied this science and were brought into government, are called what?
Yeah.
Deists. And why do the Europeans to the priesthood would call them atheists? They're talking about that's where that comes from. That means they didn't accept the idol god systems of Rome. Therefore, they're called atheists. That's where that comes from. That means they didn't believe in the idol god systems set up by Rome. But yet people are taught that it means they don't believe in God's spirit type stuff. And it's no, they don't deal with the idol stuff. And even over the period of time, that's got corrupted. Now, all of your so-called founding fathers are deists. That's why all of them are what? Every president, this is back to properly educating people. And these things are known by scholars. And the more and more I study, the more and more I charge a lot of our so-called black scholars for deliberately hiding information because it doesn't fit their agenda. And then pretend they don't know because they're getting that skull and bones kickback. Here it is. It's a little wet. Now, all scholars know this, but the masses don't know this. Do you know what this title is? Anybody know what this title is? Raise your hand. All right, this is what this title is. This is what this title is. Write this down so you don't forget it.
Yeah. Please spell it B-R-O-1.
B-R-O-P-R-E-T-O-R.
The R and E is close together. You put
Got it?
in proper
Okay, I understand.
That's why I
term, you put the R and the E.
I didn't get it.
The R and the E, they were close together, so you couldn't see what letters they were.
Huh?
He couldn't make out the letters, the R between the R and the E.
Everybody got this?
Oh, and that's the president?
Yeah.
I'll be in that in a second, James. Okay, go
See,
ahead.
this is what I'm saying to you. All scholars know that every president must be a Mason. Why is it that they don't tell people that? Because it will start tying you back to the real history because you start doing research. Because it will conflict with what you were taught and you feel uncomfortable and you try to prove them wrong. Then the process you educate yourself. Do you understand? This is why very often, you know, blind statements are thrown out there to throw people off, but they only can get away with it with people who are not scholars and people who don't know etymology. Why? Because in a basic education, etymology teaches you how to know what you don't know.
Hey, Scott, can you break the word down for me?
Huh?
Can you break the word Plano, what they call George, or Plano Penitentiary?
Can you give them?
Penitentiary.
Need you on the mic. You on the mic.
Plenipotentiary.
All right.
Let me ask you
again.
one question. That Houthi, that last part of the word, that means two things. Just like his name is Hat Tweed. That Tweed coming up doubles it. And there's your second meaning when you gave us the meaning Mercury. Because it also means scribe. Zahut Tweed, the scribe. And that second
Well,
meaning.
it's taken after that. It's taken after that, but it is actually the name of the planet, Mercury. Now, so history, so that you understand. Deity is just simply a shortened form of the sound of this, which is deity. This is where you get deity from, that they use in the terms of God. Where you have the ritual, which means the arithmetic, the symbolic arithmetic of 7 counterclockwise circles around the cube geometry, the square, Kaaba, in the holy city Mecca. And then they have the altars designed after Kaaba, which would be little square altars where they raise people in the ancient Egyptian mystery schools. And they have 3 lights, 3 candle lights. And this, you go into the wax of the thorax of the bee, the birds and the bees. It's a whole nother lesson, but let's keep it simple. And the 7 golden candlesticks in the book of Revelation and that ritual of the Hajj mean the same thing. Now, the masses are divided against each other in their concepts of what they think it is, not what they know it is.
Right.
You find those 7 minarets.
Exactly. Now,
There you go.
exactly the same thing. Now, Masons know it, people who are given the Kabbalistic degrees, but the common people are usually defensive of their beliefs that are really based on emotional interjections of dogmata, not fact, for control purposes. Knowingly, it's not accidental. And this is where the priesthood protect their turf interests. This is why all priests will condemn Masonry from the pulpit, knowing that he's a Mason.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Because if the people knew the truth, it would liberate them from the demons who's really standing behind the pulpit.
Islam, my brother. Brother Taj, so how far back do all the ones who sat in that office of president from the conception, were they all Masons?
Every president for the United States, North America, is a Mason. The only one that was not a Mason was Kennedy. And yet he was. No. No, that's conceptually, that's not the point. We talk about masonry. You got to understand what masonry is. See, remember, people don't know what masonry is, that's more what Mason is. Everybody, most of the masters think that Mason is a fraternal order.
Yes.
And well, yet it is, and yet it is not. Every man is born a Mason, because he's got a belly button, and he came from his mother. And he's a mother's son. That's what a Mason is. And now, when you deal with what you call the distribution of the knowledge in an organized fashion, then you're dealing with fraternal order, pretty much, which was set up, via the sons of the lesser light being given the higher light in order to bring them into what you call civilization.
There you go.
And so this is called character building.
Right.
Because you're consciously learning things that come from the animal form into the humanistic form. This is where you get humanitarian principles. This is why some of your major principles in Masonry is philanthropy being one, charity, sincerity. These principles are for character building. And then, yes, and it's really true religion. And the issue is that the preachers know that, the reverends know that, the imams know that, the rabbis know that, but the believers don't know that.
Right.
They think that's devil worship.
That's right.
Do you understand?
Yes.
And yet, they're told at the same time, Jesus was a carpenter.
Yeah.
Right.
And that carpentry is the compass of the square.
And they're using those tools.
Yes, using the tools, workshop of the mind.
Workshop of the mind.
This is the other issue is, for the priesthood, that means all rabbis, all imams, all reverends, all master masons, etc. They know for the rulership It is ancient and is called workshop of the mind. And for the masses, it's called worship, which is a diversion.
So we learn about the square, which makes
And everything is built on a square.
Yeah, that's right. When you
And everything is built on a square.
You're a square man, and you treat people squarely.
Yes.
And you're working on the level. That's all, man. And you upright, plumb.
Makes sense.
You see? So I wish a lot of people, a lot of our children would get this.
Yes.
Now, this is the title of all of those men who were exercising those powers for that unity or for that negotiation for the treaties, and they were the deists. And who were given these titles? Raise your hand, y'all. I know you know DS, you can say it, but go ahead, give me the mic.
Jefferson, Ben
Give me the mic.
Franklin.
Wait till you get the mic so it can be on the tape.
Ben Franklin, Jefferson, George Washington,
John Adams.
John Adams.
Oh, now specifically, not so much George. That's sort of like belated falling on him, as Chief Justice Ben Bey suggested that the general take Benjamin Franklin's place, who was absent. But this is the power of attorney given for representatives of a nation state in treaty to act with the supreme or most potent powers of the nation, to negotiate, to construct.
For those colonizing.
Therefore, they must be deists because they must know the culture.
Right.
Now, when you get out of the mystery of it, you understand why Jefferson rewrote what they call the Jefferson Bible and took all the dogma out of it. Why? Because he was a deist. Because he studied what? Moorish science. So the deists are the Europeans who studied Moorish. That's why they always have affairs. Once you understand these things, none of this stuff is mysterious. But when, you don't have to make, what people will do, they'll take that same information and make it all complex, like it's some kind of metaphysical, mysterious stuff that you got to weave through. So just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. It's that simple. It's not complex. And don't make it complex. A child should be able to understand it. Just tell the truth. And they keep on, they're so busy, they're more interested in protecting their clubs and their leader guys' images, vanity, finances. They're not really interested in liberating the people. They give them enough information to keep them emotionally involved, then have them jumping around a merry-go-round, run the merry-go-round bush all the time and everything. Meanwhile, the world is moving on. And then they're always behind because they always fall for every little game that comes along and gets them off the path. Because the deal is that the man knows that truth will come. And anyone who seeks the truth will find it. So their job is to keeping the people busy, distracted. When they see you on the path, they'll give you some kind of promise, apple that ain't, got worms in it type thing, shiny and stuff like that, to just get you out the race. And you get, yeah man, see, because right now I got this apple and stuff, see? And this apple is what's going to really save the world's moving on, right? And this is basically how they use the UCCs and everything else. And it doesn't mean that that stuff doesn't have validity to it. It does within its venue, but it's usually misrepresented. But what it does, it keeps people busy and out of their hair while they plot on what, by the time you get through the hoops, not to acknowledge you after you went through the hoops. Not that you didn't jump through the hoops. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? When what you need to do is condemn the fraud and kill the straw man. Make it so they can't use it. But people get caught up in thinking they're going to get their hands in this bottomless pit account, which will never happen.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
That's right.
And if they can keep you running after that, that gives them time. Plus, that gives them opportunity to study you. And then when you start jumping through the hoops, they know that you're going to file papers telling them everything about yourself, financially and everything, and give it to them, and they don't have to investigate because you tell them every damn thing.
Yep.
Then they undermine you.
Yep.
And then they'll let you be a little bit successful to encourage everybody else not to get off the treadmill.
That's right.
Do you understand? So, oh, I know a brother, man, because people fetch him to Oswaldorf. Oh, and everybody starts. But really what it's done, it is put everybody on stagnation, and the world is moving on. As an example, when you study the politics of what's taking place now in the real world, even their most close allies, their closest ally, which is Germany, they stole their gold. What makes you think they're going to honor your UCC? I mean, and it doesn't mean that the process is void, because they got to give you something legitimate. Once you start getting halfway conscious, they got to give you something legitimate that the card don't look marked, like the deck don't look marked. Meanwhile, if they're betraying their most cherished ally, and you think they're going to be honorable with you when it's your estate that they done wrote all these instruments on?
And it's gold, you gold. And now you think they're going to give it back to you.
I mean, do you understand? And it doesn't mean that. And this is what's so interesting. Because the processes that are constructed, they'll make a game, and the game is totally legitimate within itself. It's just that it's out of cycle. That means when you finish it, they're so far beyond it that it doesn't, it's sort of like trying to learn how to play Old Maid, because we get ready to go to Atlantic City to try to win this program. And we perfected, Old Maid with our little girls, decked the one with the gold fringe around it, really shiny one, and we impressed with ourselves. And you get down to the AC, they know that well you ain't winning that Corvette.
No.
And you better save bus fare. And we be serious. And I'm not knocking it because but we're naive. We're really naive. What is going on the broader scale of international politics? It is this. The nations of the earth, even though we know there's compromisions across the board in different areas, for the sake of humanity, the nations of the earth, starting with Russia, China, Brazil, etc., are enforcing the American Constitution that Obama talked about, Article 1, Section 10, which is the counter move to the coup that took place in 1861, which is the basis of the feudal order that's operating now, going to and fro the earth, devouring nations. And they'll call it a reset, they'll call it a whole bunch of other things, and people who don't know history saying, it's a reset, and they're arguing gold and silver coins, and it is, and it isn't the issue. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Article 1, Section 10 deals with the gold and silver coin, the fact of what a dollar is, weights and measures, blah, blah, blah. Congress, etc. But the real issue is that they're not dealing with money, they're dealing with resources and trust estates that they've created to put liens against our gold and stuff, and then use the artificial liens from a commercial paper to steal the gold and then transfer the debt on us when we're not a part of it. Never could be.
Right.
That's exactly what's taking place. And what you find is the average person, educated person, does not know that that's what's taking place. And then these people will make up so they did site drafts before, then they did HMOs, and they did, start practicing on UCCs. They're all forms of UCCs, discharging, etc. Now, according to law, you're supposed to discharge. They're supposed to discharge. Now, this is what they do. They create a trust in a name that sounds like yours, which is never your name. And it ain't yours, that's why you can't capture it. No, it's true. You know what, it's sort of like this. No matter how much you like Michael Jackson's song, I'm bad, he's too hard and stuff. Right? And then he said, well, I'm going down and I'm going to put a copyright on this song. I really like that song. They'll take your finance. You go to court and see if that copyright wins. And we don't get it. See, it's sort of like this. The coup took place in 1861, solidified in 1871. Most people keep looking at Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933, rather than, which is the first indicator that they don't know the origin of the problem. They're looking at the so-called bank holiday. All of that was coming out of the closet party of what was already established. See, the coup took place in 1861. Abraham Lincoln was the last president for the United States Republic. Every president after Abraham Lincoln was a fraud. Are we clear? Mm-hmm. This is again why they took out after Abraham, they murdered Lincoln. That's why they removed the original article of Amendment 13 with its 20 sections. Article 12 of that demonstrates that people of African descent could never be citizens. Why? Because we're the people of the land. We're under occupation. It's not them. You could never, you know, you can't be on the opposite side of the chessboard. Although there's a relationship. This is why it was necessary for the Europeans to create the brand system. Because it took us out of Constitution law. That's the function of branding. See, people get caught up in looking at the grammatical misrepresentations or taking our name and religion. Everybody says that. Why don't they tell the people the function was to make you non-descendable? They ain't going there. Why? Because they could promote that black thing. And they're part of the problem. But they know as long as the people aren't educated, the people don't recognize that they're being played by both their leader guys and the Romans.
Islam, my brother.
Islam.
So, are you saying what's going on right now with them dumping the T-bombs and everything that's happening with the BRIC nations and this reset that they talk about?
Is really the enforcement of Article 1, Section 10.
So everybody got it wrong. I mean, no one's talking the way.
Y'all don't have it wrong because you know. What I'm saying to you is that all scholars know that. All politicians know that. All master masons know that. The masses who are kept in the belief and faith degrees, who've been paying all the bills and getting screwed, aren't being told by them. That's what I'm saying. Do you understand?
Islam. But brother, then why are they leading the fraud of saying, well, we can't
because they're part of it.
We can't do it right now because we got to wait until we collapse the dollar bill.
Good.
What are they talking about?
Now, this is what it's like. Every time it gets to what you call remedy and solution, these same people that be getting finance from the poor people, marching and praying, keep hope alive, all these different so-called alphabet soup organizations, as soon as the people get serious and want something done, they are some of the first ones that keep talking about you ain't ready. And if you ain't ready, why are they messing with you? Why are we here? You know, it's sort of like the same game that the priesthood play. You know what you need to know God. And they start jumping all around.
Yeah.
And then you don't know Jesus. You don't know the Lord. You need to come here and learn about God. And then as soon as you start asking questions, they start talking about, it's too deep for you. You don't go, you ain't ready for it. Well, what you call me in for?
Yeah.
What are we here for?
Yeah.
Point. This is the point that I'm making. They're still on your birthright, still on your bicycle. You're catching hell double times over. You got to work 10 times as hard to get the same merit, etc., and even then sometimes cheated out of it. And then all these people start with all these alphabet soup cure organizations. As soon as you ask any poignant questions, they start talking about you ain't ready. What are they messing with you for? What they're telling you, they're admitting right there. We're here to keep you all in first gear in the race. And keep talking about success.
Yeah, work harder.
No, they're overseers, but they know that people who have the mentality of children can't recognize it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Why do you think they call our adults boys and girls? They call them boys and girls because they exercise the mentality of a child. Because fundamental geometry that's in nature itself, once they have taken on the belief in faith systems, they will deny divine law in their face.
I got one more question.
Go ahead, whatever you want to ask.
I listen to a conference call every now and then. And they're saying about, this Nasara. And I'm sure you heard of Nasara that's supposed to be introduced into the world, and it's getting help off planet. Galactic help is bringing in. They're saying, okay, when the Pope comes next week, they have arrest warrants for him. He's supposed to be arrested. My point of getting at, I hear what you're saying. And brother, I know you're a prophet. I know you're right. But I'm saying so many people don't know what's going on then. They don't understand that they're thinking this thing's going to change for the better. Financially, they're going to
They're intending to solidify this thing. It will go, it is sort of like this. It will be on the people what they want. Meaning the people will demonstrate that they have grown, or they will be locked into abject slavery in perpetuity. That's another reason they got Jade Helm. Jade Helm is serving two purposes. It is a battle against the cabal, because there's a civil war going on right now, even though the masses don't know it.
Yeah, right.
And it's also to enforce the New World Order for the solidification of the rulership of Rome on the planet. And so Pope Francis, his mission is to unite all religions. It's not a negative, it's a positive late. You understand? But that is also because you have, because they're not the only Masons on the planet. You see, you got dark side, you got light side. And so you have what is called the White Dragon Society, which is made up of a lot of the ancient Manchurian families. Some of the TNE, which you call Chinese, some Asiatics, some Africans, and even some deists from here, right, who are actually fighting on the issue of the light side, or the side of the light. And so what you have is the operations between the allodial republic, those who represent those divine principles of nature, of governance on the earth, which is humane, and then those who are still maintaining the forced servitude, etc. In a way, as far as the politics at North America, you would call it the conscience Whigs in contest with the cotton Whigs. And the conscience in a minute. Now, that's what's running North America. And it's things like, little things like this that leader guys know. But see, if they taught the truth about the politics, it would lead to other information that would totally dismiss most of their organizations as not only being incompetent, but it's very clear that they're designed to mislead the people or to keep them in what you call a stagnant state, but yet pacify them, sort of like a drug. Do you understand? Because these are things that all scholars know, and these are things that you should know. See, when you know the politics, you're more effective when you're talking to people who are running your estate. And so if you're talking to magistrates, you know they're not magistrates, but they are magicians. Do you understand? And you know that they're masons. You don't argue it, you know it. You're supposed to know. But you also are supposed to know and have sense enough to know that he's not going to sit up there and have a Masonic conversation with you in front of their slaves.
No.
So you don't paint him in a corner. However, you do tell the truth. You don't give, because the world is run on signs and symbols. It is. Our laws run on signs and symbols. But once you understand what they are, you just be yourself. If you are yourself. And he can smell when you ain't yourself. Because you stutter and and you start doing that kind of stuff where you're looking up in the corner picking at straws, you already know that you're incompetent. And you run him out too much, he's going to charge you with contempt, or he's going to tell you, shut up and get a barrister from England. And if you keep on talking, you're in contempt. Because if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you should shut your damn mouth. Because either you know yourself, either you're going to present yourself, or another man will represent you. And that's what's been going on with so-called black people. Right?
Yeah.
Now, when you told the truth about your Zodiac Constitution, you are well qualified to defend your birthright. Because you understand what it is. It's not mysterious. You understand? That's why Joali said what? I'll pull the covers of all secret organizations. There are no secrets. And so if you really study, it's not mysterious. Don't act like it's mysterious. You know, so if you're talking to someone who's representing the dark side of Illuminati, because everything you light in a man is Illuminati. You know, everyone that activates the pineal gland is Illuminati. Do you understand? Just like, in other words, like, truth in science is neither positive or negative. You know, like the Bible says, the sun shines on the good as well as the evil. The power is neutral. How it's used is the issue. And as long as they can make people think that Masonry itself is a negative, or Illuminati is a negative, that keeps people from examining it, because it's only in their mind devil. It's the demons. And all demon means is God of the lesser light. It still means God of the lesser light. That's not an interpretation, that's exactly what it means. You know what I mean? Now, if you're responsible for what you've done, then the creator of him is responsible for giving his boy the power to compete with him. That ain't your responsibility. But people don't look at the book that way. They've been taught by the priesthood that it is their responsibility to overcome that devil that God made, that got more power than all of you, and then God's going to kill you if you don't overcome this devil. That's his boy that he gave all his power to, who's an archangel that he having trouble with. Is that kind of loving God going to kick your ass because you can't beat him?
That's right.
That's his boy. If you're responsible for what you do, why ain't he responsible for what you do? But you ain't supposed to answer that, are you? Ooh. After all, wasn't you who was caressing Mary's carbuncles? Holy Ghost is guilty too, isn't there? Joe's out there talking to his boys, yeah, man, you know, I had this new wheels and everything, man. And meanwhile, the Holy Spirit slides through the window, caressing Mary's carbuncles. That's called adultery. How come he ain't charged?
True.
You do it, and there's, see, point of it is honesty crushes falsehood. Wow. Once you're able to deal with reality and willing to deal with reality, you can start taking the books and they can become useful to you. If you don't use your divine mind, you're caught in the mystery. This is why the world's in the condition it's in. And yet, so many people claim to be religious. And all you see is destruction, broken families, people being taken out of their homes unjustly, been robbed on every front. And then they talk to the youth about salvation, and the youth, all they look around and they see themselves dying younger and younger every year with all this salvation. We are the biggest hypocrites the world has ever known. Claiming powers and spirituality that does not express itself in our communities at all, but everybody claims it. We're full of doo-doo and then some.
Islam, my brother.
Islam, my brother.
On my way down here tonight, I got a call from a preacher in Lancashire. He said they're up there shooting, killing it, there's so much killing, everything going on. He said, we had a meeting with all the ministers in Lancashire. Most of them didn't show, but they won't, he said, they won't even come together to work together.
That's what changed.
You hear what I'm saying? And what you're saying is more than 100% true. People now are saying, listen, what we're believing and doing ain't working. This stuff ain't working.
No,
and young people saying, I don't even want to hear that crap.
No more.
No more.
If anything, they feel abandoned.
Yes.
Because most of them don't even live their lives like they're going to live past 30.
That's exactly right.
They're trying to get it all in with no grand expectations. And they're kind of right. You know, and the hypocritical OGs, as they call us, have violated. Because we have set nothing for them. But we funded all these so-called houses of God on every other corner in any direction, and not one civic organization for these youth. Not one. And yet the things that affect their lives every day are civic in nature and in character. They get tickets, it's a civic action. When they go to a job and they get taxed, civic action. When they transfer any activity in the bank, civic action. When they're going in and out of jails, it's a civic action. When they're going to schools, it's a civic action. When they go out in society, it's a civic action, period. It is called the science that treats of government, of citizenship, the rights, the duties, the capacities, and the incapacities of citizenship, etc., in any society. It is called civics. Not one. And so our children are already handicapped as soon as they get out there. And what do they usually jump on? What they have been trained, always talk about what they believe and how they feel, don't know that they're out of order. And then the men say to you, I don't care what your beliefs are. You can't bring them in this court. Yeah, but I believe, and the Lord is going to make it. And you shut up while you're here. Yeah, but I know God. Well, if you did, you wouldn't have been here. You know, all that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, really. And we get caught off balance because we don't know. Just like the brother's saying, but we don't know because we've adopted what? The very thing that we were warned against. Like in the book of Thessalonians 1 and 2. The same Jesus that you talk about says, remember when I was with you, I told you these things, that they would claim themselves to be God and sit on the throne declaring themselves as God. And now y'all trying to act like I didn't tell you all these? And like this is new to you? I don't think so. You know, and really, and these are people who keep claiming to know the books. Right? And then they throw the word God around like it's the name of the supreme being, when it's anything that is worship or praise. And anyone that knows the history know that God means this when the Europeans put it on the numismatics, what is called the coinage and the paper notes. In God we trust. It is gold, oil, and drugs. And it is government ordnance departments. And that's exactly what it is. And that's not an interpretation, that's fact, provable, researchable fact. And for the dumb masses, it means the supreme being,
Wow. Wow.
who are taught by these very same people, and the very reverends who teach them that 33-degree Mason know it means gold, oil, and drugs. And it's been what's been used by the lower cells to run the planet.
What about Crexman?
Say it again?
Crexman.
Get the mic.
No, I didn't mean to take, Jimmy, you were going to ask something. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
What?
I just want to ask one word.
They're putting the word Crexman for the name of the supreme being. That's what everyone's, just a new word they have now.
Well, new one,
Crexman.
and there's nothing wrong with that, but consider this. So now they got a new one, so if they knew him so much, what about this other one?
Yeah.
Or which guy they talking about? You know, the one up there. What, the one over this way up there, or the one over there that way? Or is it the other one there? Or is it the one over that one? And how can you tell the difference? Now, so the guys before us have explained to us which God they talk about, since you're talking about the real God. You know what I'm saying? We talking about God, we talking about the real one. You know, the really one? Well, the real one.
Here's the real one.
That means you got something, you gotta have something to compare to, right? So since everybody talking about all these different gods, and they're talking with surety, that means they have a reference point. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So if you ask them which one, then they supposed to be able to explain it?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Should they be offended?
Nope.
They should be cherish the opportunity to now express the truth that they claim they got. But 9 times out of 10, they get defensive and they get offensive and they get hostile with you. They do.
That's right.
With all of their love and divinity, they're full of doo-doo. And really, the children kind of know that now, and the children are brave enough to just tell them to go floating.
Yep.
Now, whereas most of the adults are still playing in between with a guilt trip, or they're worried about their Job. That's why Job and Job spelled the same way, because it really means the same thing.
Yeah.
The job is to strip all of your wealth. In every generation, they come back and take your stuff.
Yeah.
Did you consider my servant your
And what have they
God?
done? Yes, made you curse your God, meaning the truth about the real history. And you've taken on the idol god systems of Rome, worshiping Rome and trying to pretend that they love Jesusness. The very Romans that murdered him. You see the whole point? You know, where a child, you can give a child a lesson on when the priesthood and the Romans met secretly, regularly, and castigated the prophets, and plotted the character assassination, then plotted his death. And guess who got blamed? The devil. A child can see the difference, and yet adults keep talking about we're doing good Christian stuff and God stuff and stuff. And then here comes the devil. The child says, that was the priest, wasn't it the priest that was jealous of him? Wasn't it the priest that was meeting with Pontius Pilate in secret and scandalizing him? And wasn't it them that delivered him? And then Pontius Pilate say, you guys, he's a good man, he's not the bad guy. Why don't you hang Barabbas? We want him. No, there's Barabbas. Y'all sure? Who did that? It wasn't no devil, it was the priesthood.
Yep.
And what did Pontius Pilate said? Symbolically, or he wanted to get rid of him, says, well, wait a minute, y'all, let me wash my hands. Symbolic, meaning that it ain't me. Priesthood. A child can see that, and yet adults to this very day keep charging the devil for what the priesthood have done. And the priest's been raising finances ever since in the name of Jesus to kick the devil's ass, and it was them. Now that's the absolute truth. But most people will turn around and defy the evidence because it doesn't fit their beliefs. They're more interested in defending their denominations than they are with the truth. And then they want to claim why the world's in trouble today. And then they want to wonder why the children don't believe in them no more. Because because all the children have been seen as misery and death, and jail, and drugs, and broken families, and robbed business from the IRS, and watched grandmoms and great-grandmoms remember being able to go on a whole big plot of land. Now they rent in apartments, have no inheritance. And all these parents keep talking about pray and salvation. And the only one got a $3,000 suit on is Reverend Jones, and a plane to go with it. And they fighting to try to pay that ticket.
Creflo Dollar.
I mean, this stuff is so asinine and so disgusting. But thankfully, as divine order would have it, the people are finally waking up, like the sun is coming out. Thank you very much. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I was going to say, add to what you're saying, you know, these elders, you know, they get married, they work together, and they get a home, and as soon as one dies, the other one can't even afford to pay the taxes on your house.
Because it's just
and then they
cheating.
come in there and bother them old people in their old age and just scare them to have to death.
This is it.
And so they die with a broken heart and also being threatened to be thrown out in the street after they work for their property.
Here it is.
Yes, sir.
That's what I call it.
No, this is what it is. This is what it is.
That's cheating.
They say that.
That's cheating.
It's cheating.
Yeah, that's
Now,
cheating.
Which means what?
this is what it means. This is why we tell people, see,
That's cheating.
the major thing that we try to get across to people when they come here is to give you and to encourage you to deal with what things are, not what you heard them to be, not what you assume them to be, because that's what makes you competent. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that's what's taking place. It's cheap is this. When there's no descendable heir, descendability has to do with status. The state can come in and take the land, or the estate, or the inheritance. It's called ST. It was set up by the popes of Rome. That's how they've been robbing us from generation to generation. It's still based on what? A person who is not in their proper person. This is another reason why the European put their family names on you. It automatically escheats all estates. Therefore, when there is what is called the natural course of descendancy, they're already what is called a ward of the state. And therefore they're under wardship tenures, and then the corporate state does not have to account for the profits until she is 16 or he 21 according to the law of inheritance. And so what they've done is created the title or the subcategory called minority and have assigned their overseers to teach it as an identity. And what it means is that no matter the age of the male or the female, they are now still not descendable because they are minors.
That's right.
Minority means legal status. They make them think it means Afrocentric identity. It makes them non-descendable. Therefore, the corporate state is cheats. This is why you see every instrument that has been issued under the United States Corporation Company since 1913 after Woodrow Wilson met with representatives of the popes of Rome of Jekyll Island, Georgia, that all allodial titles, can you get some of this for me? Allodial titles became what you now know as deeds. Deeds are feudal, allodial titles ownership.
Yes.
And so there are no allodial titles, therefore you're sharecropping. So anyone who thought they were buying property are listed as a tenant in share.
What year?
Tenure.
What year did that happen, my brother?
Since 1913. That's why I tell people, you know, like when I gave it to you on a flash drive and House Joint Resolution 192, where the admission comes from, and this is where he exposed, but these are things that all scholars already know. That's why he said they was going to kill him, because you got to remember, any so-called representative, whether congressman, senator, etc., operating for the United States Corporation Company is a Mason. Whether he's a Shriner, whether he's York House Mason, you understand what I'm saying to you? Scottish Rite, etc. Do you understand? They all are. And so this is why Tropicana always said they're going to kill him.
Yep.
Sure
And of
did.
course they got him, what was that, last September?
Yeah, last
Yep.
September.
You know,
Did they kill him in his barn or something?
Yep.
they act like his tractor turned over.
Yeah, he's trying to turn it.
In
Yeah,
his
right.
barn.
In the
In
bar,
the
in the
bar.
bar, yeah.
Barn.
You know, but the deal up there is,
In the bar.
the deal is when you know the real history, you can read this stuff even half over before it happens, because you already know what their agenda is. You understand what I'm saying? Now, coming from as far as we're concerned, our people, this information is given to bring us to a level of competence so that we can stand face to face with other men and take our places amongst the affairs of men, even though we've been unseated. As long as we continue to argue and to debate things that are not real, i.e. that is the dogmata that they gave us, they immediately know that you're not competent. Because there's what they call connotative linguistics that is given for controlling the masses. When you become enlightened, your language changes because you know that culture is in the language. And without culture, you're an uncultivated man. And if you're uncultivated, you can't be on the square. Therefore, you can only be represented by another man. Thus, the barristers of England as deputy knights for the popes of Rome under the exchequer, claiming the estate of these people that know not the honor of their mothers and their fathers. That's simple. It's not complex.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Islam.
Islam.
Trapicon's best friend is a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
He's been wanting to get with you, brother. And what I'm saying to you, wow. I know that is an appointment, global, what would I say, astronomically,
Cosmic.
cosmic
Is what it
appointment
is.
that's going to happen, and I hope I'm there. But he's always, whenever I get to see him, he asks for you, and he wants to meet with you, brother. And that's what
Well, then we'll come down and we'll you know where we have our we'll go to T&E's and go have dinner. We'll go have dinner at the Chinese place.
Yes.
So you make the arrangements, and I'll make a point to get down there sometime.
Okay, brother.
All right. Now, when you look at House Joint Resolution 192, you will see that he stated some things that Louis McFadden had stated in 32 and in 34. And he said what? Before 1913, and you got to always think timeline, when did Raleigh officially establish the Old Canine Temple?
1913.
When did Wilson solidify an agreement that he started in 1910 with the opposing Roman representatives of Jeff Island? 1913. And what the Tropicon said? Prior to 1913, the American people held a allodial title to their property.
Right in the mortgage.
Yes, and then he says, thereafter came your liens and mortgages. And most people don't know that mortgage means dead pledge. The contract is dead and you are the pledge, i.e. straw man. So you can see that was set up since 1861 with the coup. And it was solidified in 1871, which is called the Act of 1871, which is a solidification of the coup, and then reinforced as a countermeasure, because you're dealing with trust and estate, by Woodrow Wilson Skull and Bones. Then the coming out of the closet party was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a couple of years after they got rid of Noble Raleigh. And all was about what? Stealing our gold. From the beginning. And then what they've been doing is putting liens against the estate. What estate? Obama told you. The American Constitution is derived from Muslim law. I feel Dr. Naila.
Just sit here for a minute. Yeah.
Isn't well,
You want to do a thing for us tonight, right?
No, I'm getting ready to leave. I'm getting ready to go
No,
away.
just step over here a little bit. Step over here. Step over here. Step over here. Just a little bit. Go ahead, girl.
That's what I'm talking about.
Don't start no stuff. Somewhere. You look good though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you just showing off.
Yeah.
She just dropped in just.
Detoxing.
See what you mean. Shapely too.
I need to
Don't get me
detox.
started on the pulpit that we said this is on film. Anyway,
What you look like at 60 when you detox.
go ahead, get there.
Go ahead.
I'll be there.
Well, I'm glad to see you though. We were talking about the allodial titles. Now keep in mind, when you look at all of these things, if you understand the politics, even the coup, you understand Noble Jali's mission. If you don't have the knowledge of the history, he becomes an interesting man that did some good things, and people are caught up in beliefs or what they think, and their concepts are absolutely incorrect. This is another reason why people who have operated, for Calvin Coolidge and J. Edgar Hoover, that have been involved in the movement, always suppress the national side of the movement as if it's not a part of the movement, or you'll hear them saying this is only a religious movement, etc. When it's divine and national is absolute. And also, when you see in the divine warning by the prophet for the nations, he said specifically to all true, and that's the qualification, American citizens, that means from the south to the north, to help me in my mission to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America. And then what Obama do? Turn around, backs it up. Says what? The American Constitution is derived from Muslim law. Then he has a picture taken of him and Michelle walking through the double doors, higher self, lower self, guards standing clear as day, due guard with the Moorish flag. Then he goes before the councils of the world, for representatives around the world, both religious and political. And he goes immediately to Article 11 of the Treaty of Tripoli. Very clear. And of course, he starts in the middle. Why? Because he knows the controversy, but he knows that there's so many people that are against him being proprietor for the corporation. And then he knows others think that the president is for a country, when he's actually a service organization for the corporation, which was the result of the overthrow of 1861. You know he's not going to sit there and say it like that. He's throwing keys out so hard and heavy, he's lucky he's still here.
Yeah.
But that's his assignment. Once you understand that's his assignment. And then, if you understand that, you also understand why all so-called debts under the United States Corporation must be only and can only be discharged. They cannot be paid. They cannot be paid. And it's not because we say so, it's because it's the fact. See, so this is one of the traps that they have with the average people. All the politicians and all of the so-called leader guys, the congressmen and senators, etc., all of them know that under the United States coup, under the corporate entity, since they murdered Lincoln, that all debts can only be discharged, none can be paid. Are we clear? Because they put the liens of the marriage certificates that were set up by the Daughters of the American Revolution, that's the DAR, set up the marriage code from the Codes Noir of the Franciscan order. And this is where all marriage certificates, it already declares all offspring from the marriage as orphans. And where they don't catch them there, they catch them with the birth certificate in admiralty. You understand? And that's filed in the Department of Orphans, in the Department of Commerce, human trafficking. And it is the estates and the labors of all these living beings that's converted to the dead, thus the straw man, and thus the civil little more two status created by the popes of Rome under occupational powers. And then the Pope declares the dead bodies and then gives them an estate. This is the construct of the 14th Amendment personality given in 1868. When they closed the Freedmen's Bureau, when they were supposed to give these people back their names, their nationality, 40 acres and a mule, etc., and all finance, and they were supposed to repatriate the people between the Allegheny Mountains and the Rockies. And of course, they would have to give them most of the land back, so what did they do? They killed Lincoln, shut that down, hid the original article of Amendment 13 with its 20 sections that we were talking about earlier, and then exposed it with 2 sections, and then they created the 14th Amendment, 14th and 15th Amendment to cover up the original 13th Amendment with its 20 sections. And once you understand that, nothing about the politics is mysterious. This is also why we always study things, but we also don't get caught in the traps. Not that they're not tempting. And so when the Europeans say, well, if you capture the birth certificate and authenticate it, you're finally going to capture the straw. And they'll let you, get so far because anything that you do is positive above the dead level is good. However, you never complete the cycle because they don't let you. And if you do, they don't acknowledge it. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? But they do let a few through to keep the faith. Because remember, in any con art systems, they've got to allow some, what you call minor appearances of success. But it's like this. Let's look at this from a percentage. So say all of us go up in a plane, and they say, finally, y'all got your parachute to get out of this thing, right? And we all jump out the plane, and only one lands alive, a broken leg, but he lands alive, and everybody talking about, yeah, man, I know a brother that landed. Everybody else is dead. And this is not unlike what they've done. If you pay attention, because I've talked to people around the country over the years, and of course, I was aware of the operations of the Uniform Commercial Codes and their function and purpose, because everything is in commerce. So don't mistake it is. And then, of course, remember, they blackmailed the representatives of Texas in 1966, between 66 and 68, and that's when those codes became uniform. Before 66, they were not uniform commercial codes, they were just commercial codes. And those codes are ancient. Those codes are actually ancient Moorish trade laws for the Silk Road, etc., and beyond that. And this has much to do with what's going on right now, even the wars in Crimea, etc., is that even the Christian Crusades, this is why you have to know the politics. What are the politics really today? The politics are really today the popes of Rome trying to capture and reestablish the Silk Road between Asia Major, Asia Minor, which is Africa and China. And that's the truth, that's the politics. Whether you're dealing with the pipelines or anything else, it's the Silk Road. And what they had done years ago was diverted that wealth into the coffers of Rome, and now it has hit a brick wall, and as all falsehood is, it's collapsing. Now, so when you know the history, you know that's what it is. When you don't, you'll look at these things as incidental, you know, like they're in pockets. But those who know, knows that you look at the past, the present, and the future as one picture. Good.
So, you said it hit a brick wall. What's the brick wall?
The brick wall is when the Asiatic nations of the earth started giving up their schismata that is placed upon the people in the names of their dogmata, which is a military term for divide and conquer, the schismata. And so for the interest of humanity and the saving the planets, they come together, in spite of their differences, etc. And they are joining or uniting together as a countermeasure to Rome, which is destroying the earth and the planets. In other words, the world has come to the conclusion, not that they didn't have the information, they knew that, that the Romans had been given the 8 ball. And so the 8 ball is really key knowledge to ancient technologies that are far advanced than what we think they are, and in fact, what they are. This is what's happening. They have what you call is a motley order of science. And the motley order of science is this. They have technology that is as far as 10,000 years advanced.
Wow.
But they also have the problematic that there's other different disciplines that go with it, whereas the body forms that they possess are not advanced to handle it. So it's like this. They have the technology and to bore all through the earth. Right. And they've got domes and a whole bunch of cities under the earth that coincide with cities that are also thousands of years old. Of course, they have the problem of others being here with us, have been here with us all the time. Right. Then they have others who have come and gone all the time. They have a couple of them that's new, but for the most part, it's what's always been on this planet. Right. They have to hide some of that history because it kills the idol god systems that they've constructed for human mind control that has controlled humanity for the last 3,000 years. Because the humanity's concept of what they think God is totally false. Right. Not almost, totally false. Not only that, knowledge of themselves. Also, the problem of finding out 2 things. The priesthood is both God and devil. That must be understood. Fact. The priesthood is both God and devil. And so the priesthood, for control purposes, have been doing all kinds of evil things on the planet. And then they come with the cure of an idol god that they make up, while preserving the truth of the God principle for their selfish selves in secret societies called Masonry. But don't get it twisted. Don't take Masonry as negative just because the Knights Templar hides behind it. And understand that the order of the Jesuits, Knights Templar and Knights Malta are all the same. Jesuit is a modern term taken for the Knights Templar. And it has nothing to do with religion and spirituality as the masses have been taught. They're a war machine. They're military. They're a war machine. You understand? And so the deal of it is, if some of these things come out and people, even though they spent generations burning books, etc., there's still enough information left that even a person that's not too bright, if they start examining things, the first thing will fall apart is their concepts of what they thought religion was, and then their faith is damaged, and then they're not controllable. See, because when a person's faith is shaken, they start they think it's negative, but actually they start looking at things more realistic, which now that becomes dangerous for the priesthood. Because they've got to keep the people in a state of stupor, you know, because where a child, let's deal with divine reasoning. A child would say, how come if God made everything and God made every man, woman, and child, and God created everything, how come God is incapable of communicating with the people he created and he always needs a middleman to talk to the people because he can't talk? And why he always needs everything translated and needs to be deciphered when he should be able to just talk to us? Where Joel says, too deep for you, says spiritual. And they start that dizzy stuff. It's got to be mysterious. You know, then he's, you know, speaking in tongues. Well, that's cool too. What's its interpretation? It's too deep for you to know. Oh, all right. You know, and it's always mysterious. You know, because just like any parent, you know, like a parent, if you're going across the highway, right? And there's no over-ramp. And what do you do with a child? You say, now look, forget the lights. I want you to look left. I want you to make sure no trains is coming, no planes is coming, no cars, no bicycles, and no cars. You get your ass on the other side of the street quickly as possible. Right? Now when you want BS, well, you got to go through a semester and you got to sign up for this. And then, you know, and you get these degrees, and after that you graduate, then you be able to cross the street and you watch the light. You understand? Don't jaywalk and all stuff, right? But with your own, you go stop all the BS, watch the car, because that's what's going to hit you. Watch the trucks, and buses, and bicycles, and when they don't see nothing either way, get your butt across the street, wait when you go to the other side, and be cool. And the same thing with, you know, knowledge. When you want to tell people the truth, you don't sit up and make stuff mysterious. You tell them the blunt truth. Get over yourself, get over your ego, deal with the facts. 2 and 2 is 4. Will it still be 4 when we get in the bottom of the water? Yes. But what about we get on the mountain? Isn't it a different interpretation? No. But what is being Chinese? 2 and 2 is 4. Really? Yeah. And truth is just like that. And when they start making it mysterious, look for the lie, because it's there. Get it, Brother Mike.
I got it. Let me get my spectacles.
Go ahead. Your spectacles.
I got a question, Ty.
Go ahead, good brother.
I was reading a book last night. I mean, must have been about 1 in the morning. And it made me stand straight up in the bed almost. My wife looked around, she said, "What's the matter with you?" This is your book. Is this for Moors and Mexicans? And I got to get some clearance from you tonight. Let me read the part I'm talking about. I'm on page 4 where it says, "Truth about the Far East." And this blew me out.
9 degrees.
Huh?
Go ahead. Virgo.
Rulers and scholars of the world know, and we, the Aboriginal indigenous Moors, know that the European colonial Puritanists and Inquisitionists has established their Roman order in the extreme west, Maghreb. The mission of the Inquisitionists was and is to gain control and to corrupt the seat of power in the northwest of maximum North America by way of usurpation. We, the true indigenes of the land and others of the conquered civilized world, are aware of the historical fact and know that the present socio-economical human suffering in the West has origins from the negating effects of national-colonialism. It has been misuse of and the abuse of that usurp political and economic power that has and does bring injury to the natural people of the true Far East, which is now geographically referred to as the West. Now this one, I stopped right here. I said, what is he talking about? And then I kept reading, and it shows you that they even changed, flip the whole.
Yes.
And it's the first time I heard this.
This is why, like, when you see Liberty, the Moabites,
Yeah.
is set in the bay,
Yeah, what you said coming down.
in the bay with the 7 spires. That she is a marker.
Wow.
And it comes through the Bay of New York, just west of the land of flowers, which is Florida, which is 189 degrees.
Right,
vertical.
185 east longitude, which is geographically far east as scientifically possible, the Demo-European man, 180 degrees meridian, the international date line.
There you go.
That loop, man.
Yeah.
Woo!
Sitting in your living room, didn't I tell
How
you the
is
globe
that?
is upside down?
See, so we're out of sequence with,
So that don't mean it's upside down. That means
No.
that they changed it from one side.
yeah. This
used
is
to
why
be-
it's
This
necessary.
used to be the
This is
east.
why, yeah, this is why it's necessary for
Right.
all rulers to be Masons, because in order to govern the earth, they must know the truth. But you can understand how dangerous the truth is once it gets amongst the masses, because the first liberation will be from the priesthood. And then the people will indeed be free, because it must take place mentally before it can take place physically. And they must get back in harmony with their mother, Earth, in order to have an inheritance. Because it's about the resources, isn't it?
How come nobody talking about this? I mean, this is-
Because no 33-degree Mason will reveal that without getting killed. Do you understand? Why? Because they would destroy the order. Listen. The whole issue on the planet is control of the resources. So if they can get the people arguing money, which they're not allowed to handle, as soon as they start running out their mouth, they already lied, therefore they let him off the hook. And as soon as they start saying, I paid, they lied, therefore let him off the hook, because it can only be discharged.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So they must get you to lie in order to take it off of them.
And worldwide, that I don't know how many people I can even run in.
Even, look at this, even in the mosque, they have a prayer. One of the prayers is called Maghrib.
That's right.
I can take you to a dictionary, show you that Maghrib means Morocco, the most extreme west. They think it's a prayer. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? What did that French Muslim school Malcolm, when Malcolm made the Hajj, you know, like a lot of them think that makes them Muslim. You Muslim muscles, tissues, and bones when you come out the womb of your mother. Even Europeans are Muslim. Because it has nothing to do with what you believe. It's a fact of nature. It's a fetus. That's exactly what it is. It's called muscle men. And they turn into Muslim. It means muscle man. Muscles, tissues, and bones created in the womb of woman. Therefore, every man is a mother's son. Every man's a Mason. That's why all men wear fez. Even the Europeans that claim to be Christians, right? The founding fathers, etc., every one of them got a fez. When Jefferson made his pledge, he did it on the Koran, but he wasn't looking at it spooky. He's a 360-degree Mason. Do you understand? He's a 360-degree Mason. Once you understand this stuff and get it off the spookiness about it, come down to earth, get real.
When I read this, I said, wait a minute, what did I just read? I had to read this again. I said, is he saying what I think he's saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. But once you understand it, it liberates you. Do you understand? Because remember, when you're looking at your longitude and your latitude, and when you're looking at the pi that's used as the earth, which is the master seal, you're dealing with what? Compass and a square. You make your radii with your compass, and you make your angles with your square. It's never been a secret. That's the workshop of the mind. Geometry. And so when they give you the compass and square, and G is God, government orders departments, and geometry. That's the carpenter's tools. Yeshua's carpenter's tools. That's why I say Jesus was a mason. Why? Because every man's a mason. Mother's son. So they put a negative on it so people don't examine it. Because if they examine it, they'll understand the workings. Even when they were looking for Jesus and his mom, when they was coming back, and they lost him, they said they would run around looking for him. And they said, have you seen a little boy about 12 years old? They said, oh yeah. He's down there disputing with the doctors of the law. There was doctrine of the law. And even when they came back and he said with his father, he sat with Joseph and they wrought with the carpenter's tools. They was working the workshop of the mind. Why? Because he was born a master because his mother prepared him. And so was Johann, or what you call John, his cousin. And Elizabeth and Mary were cousins. And they both were administered with the angels. And so when their sons were born, they were already prepared by the applied science of the number 9 for the work they had to do. They were born masterminds by the works of their mothers. You know, mothers need not talk, they talk through the womb. And so anything that needs to be solved on this planet, once women begin to know the truth about the ancient matriarchy and start learning to use the tools of the womb and get out of the mystery system, they will bring champions here to solve these problems. Why do you think Herod was killing all the youth? Because the science of the womb. Why don't they just tell the truth? It's like the BS.
All the children under 2.
If you know more science.
Give him the mic. Give him. Oh, go ahead.
Islam,
Get in the mic.
yesterday I was in Philly.
Yeah.
I had to take my wife to therapy around 13th of morning. So then we trying to figure it. We took a wrong turn somewhere and we got lost. I ain't been feeling a good while. So we got lost. I lost kind of direction. So I usually use the sky as my direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So east, west, etc.
I gotta look at the sky. And I try to get back which way I came. So then I just put a compass up on my phone. And as I was driving a certain way, you know what I mean, it was showing us that Delaware was not south from Philly. And I'm like, yo, they got this compass. Then we pulled away. I said, the lady, she said, yo, you going the wrong way. You got to go like 5 blocks that way and 7 blocks this way. So I'm like, yo, the compass is like way off. The direction, like, I was thinking, I said, yo, they got the whole direction, you know, like the compass and everything.
Well, let me tell you something else too, because everybody got to know this too. Since 91, first of all, you have a gradual shift anyway. Since 91, from the outside, the Earth was shifted 3 degrees.
Yes.
Since 91. Now, as things have changed, you have a little bit more shifts. So therefore, they're actually having to reroute all of your charts for flights, etc. Now, as a rule, you already know that nothing is done here without our consent, in a sense. The rule is that they will not interfere unless we ask them to. However, because of problems that we have here on the planet, the Earth was shifted 3 degrees in 91. So that's fact. Now you have the natural process of the 3,600 degrees movement, constellation movements. This particular solar system is starting to move closer to the center of the galaxy. And so what you have is energy shifts, all right? And this is where, when you get more serious with what is known as the clock of destiny. See, so all scholars know where the masses have been under Roman rule for the last couple of thousand years, particularly the last 1,000 years, if you look at it honestly. They measure time by the moon and the sun for the masses. But the high priests know it is the moon, the sun, and Venus, and 19 planets, some of which we don't see anymore because of the stagnation of our pineal gland, or what you call the seed of David. However, the priesthood must stay as close to the cosmological truth as possible in order for them to stay in power, and must keep that knowledge from the masses. This is why when the prophets come to reveal the secrets to them, they murder the prophets, because the prophets will free them from the priesthood who have been ruling for these last thousands of years, particularly since Hammurabi Bey's code of law. Or and Nebuchadnezzar. So you've got to understand the operations of rule on the planet Earth. Once you understand the operations of rule on the planet Earth, no man can fool you. This is why you're given the information, so that you have a restoration of what you call the landmark keys, or what you call the keys, to remove mystery. Because you got to know what the motivation of those who rule are. This is why when they do certain things, or they present certain dynamics in the name of liberating you, when you know that they're BSing you or they're giving you a diversion. It doesn't matter how good it sounds. And it doesn't mean you don't examine, but don't get diverted. Stay on the path. You understand? Because what you do, you give them a mandate. In other words, when they offer you an apple, beautiful, don't bite it. I don't care how shiny it is. Why? It's like this. The motu proprio that Pope Francis did in 2013, and the one he did in 2014 is about as close to truth that they have told in thousands of years. But you know and I know that the real reason why Pope Francis is telling these truths, even with that letter when he sent to Obama and told him, essentially, don't get it twisted, you're nobody. You work for us. You are a service corporation. You're the president of a service corporation. And this is why you got this coup that's going on, because you've got rogues that are out there continuing trying to have power when the transformation is happening cosmically. And their political powers or exercises of powers don't count anymore, even though the masses are used to that in their lives. You're dealing with divine law now.
Yes, sir.
So what they're doing is trying to put things in order before they're eliminated. See, it's one thing when you're dealing with what you call civil law, or what you call ens legis operations that they've been used to getting away with for the last couple thousand years, knowing that the cycle that is given to the people is not the cycle of truth, which is exactly why the reverends will never tell people that church means circle, and circle means cycle. And in order to understand the church, you must know the cycles. Therefore, you must know cosmology, astrology, which is really what the church is. And so the masses have been to buildings and have never been to church. Do you understand? It is coming out now, and in order to save face, because what a lot of them will find themselves hanging from light poles.
Can't wait.
And so he's trying to, this is what he's doing. He's throwing everybody under the bus, all corporate entities under the bus, which makes them suable.
He can call them minor, and they call themselves major.
Exactly. And so what you must look at Asia Major and Asia Minor. So now when they're talking about Queen Dodo and the King of Tyre and their rituals, etc., they're talking about Morocco.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So even the rituals they have in Masonry, they still talk about Moors.
Yes.
This is why one of the first lessons they get is root them all Vitus. And then they give it in a palatable form by saying what? Who's Ruth Demobitis? Yahshua's great-great-great-grandmother. What is her book? 3 and 9. 39th book. What is 3 and 9? 12. 12 constellations of the zodiac. And is key on her for the salvation of the nation. Do you understand? So it's not that it's not there, but if you don't know what you're reading or how to read it, and logically the priesthood is not going to tell people because they want to keep them mystified or spookified about the book, when the book is actually a cosmological ephemerides. It's a star chart.
Can I read a little
And the
more?
signs are the sun, the moon, and the stars. And he tells you, he says, I left these signs for you.
Wow.
The sun, moon, and the stars. And then the preacher come around and tell you, that's the devil.
Hey, before he reads that, can you bring me up to speed?
Or what?
What he was reading a while ago, are you saying that everything's upside, like Brother James said?
It's not so much just that it's upside down, it's that the longitude and the latitude as far as what people have been told about the earth. See, so mentally, go ahead, read some more. Go ahead.
Okay, so the Northgate Territory, North America, and the natural people were and is the main political conquest target for the Constantinople. This geographical location was anciently referred to as the fountain of youth, the Far East. However, that truth of geography and history is not taught in the public schools, nor in any public institution held under Demo-European control. The ancient truth of the real Far East is that it is located in the zodiac sign Virgo, which reaches its highest degree in the deep waters of Boston Harbor and off the western coast of Florida, the land of flowers, northwest of Amexem, North America. The climax of the zodiac sign Virgo is 189 degrees east longitude, which is a geographical far east as scientifically possible. The Demo-European man, 180 degrees meridian. The international dateline is politically motivated. Geography is drawn up by them in 1884.
Now, when we look at 1884, 1885, Berlin Conference. That's the dividing of the empire under the Ottoman Empire designation.
So also, now if you look at any map today, you'll see the zero line running from the North Pole down through Liverpool, England, coming down in Greenwich. That's right.
Yeah. Now, once you understand that, you know, you can understand why Masonry is open yet secret. Because it's a political motive. Do you understand?
Do you know that doorway that they're talking about from the zero line when it goes up into the North Pole?
Yeah.
The number is 666, the doorway.
All right. So now look. So when you see the seal of the post, right? Right?
Yeah.
With the 3 stars.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
That's their that's their concept.
Now. Now, for Washington, D.C., which you already know before Polk, that was called Little Rome. 7 hills of Rome, given by Polk. 360 degree Mason to them, and it's also the shield of Washington when he was a general.
Yeah.
The Vatican.
Yeah, he's the one that wrote
London.
the dogma too.
London. District of Columbia. Not Washington, D.C. District of Columbia. Columbia. Now, you go to Philadelphia. You will find this flying at what street?
18th.
Oh,
District of Criminals.
Right in your face. Everything is in your face.
District of Criminals.
Because they know that the masses can't see because they're not told. But meanwhile, they're going to tell you about Jesus, God, Allah, Moses, Muhammad. They're full of doo-doo. They don't even know the books. Do you understand? And the European is playing with them right in their face. They have the mummers parade, and they would do it in what you call coal tar, what they call blackface, mocking the fall of the Moors. And that's why anytime they have a mummers parade, you're going to see some of them troops going to have turbans on with feathers, with the jewel representing the pineal gland.
Yeah.
Then they even assemble at 6th and Moor Street. And they go west, young man, Horace Greeley, turn 90 degrees square on Broad Street, go past the battleground, which is City Hall. The cornerstone is not on the front of the building, but in a grave pit, open pit with a brass rail, just inside the dark north where the parapet is.
do you know he found a street this week called Sheikh Amexem in
Of
Philadelphia?
course, because that's the area.
Right before Penn Treaty, right, a little after Penn Treaty Park.
Yeah, right down there near the
Sheikh
waterfront.
Amexem.
That's a territory.
Shakamatsu, because that's the area.
Wow.
Because this is really Shakamatsu.
Also, Tom,
Yeah, go ahead.
there's, the third Constitution was written under them, and everything in the District of Criminals is, for the license plates, license and everything, that fiat goes to the Jesuits of Rome, every penny. Trillions of dollars a year. They got 3 constitutions. That's why I was saying something earlier about which constitution. There's 3. There's for the people, the Constitution for the people, the Constitution of, and then this one here. That they put in there overnight into Congress, passed the bill while everybody was out, and passed this bill.
But you got to keep in mind, the bills that they're passing are not constitutional. They are, no. They are for the corporation. You see, we gotta kind of start putting things in perspective and not just look at them as wrong. They're rightly wrong. The wrong is when you take them as being the country. The right is when you take them as being the corporation of the Popes of Rome. This is the coagulation or the triangulation of the sovereign powers of the Spanish Inquisition. It's never been hidden, is that we keep on trying to make it be something that is not. And then we keep talking to them as if they are government and we have just assigned them. This is why it's important for you to know yourself and to stop calling them what they are not, because you empower them. Let's look at this very simple. All people that rule know the issue is estate. Always been estate. Right? Which is your birthright. So you've given up your birthright for some petty thing. This is why it's described in the book of genetics, called Genesis, as a bowl of red pottage. And it's not accidental whether they call it red. Right? And then you talk about Rebecca deceiving Isaac. And for whom? Who are the issue? Esau and Jacob. And what is it? Birthright. Now, if Esau was a man of the field, that means you're a man of the field, you're supposed to be hungry. And you give up your birthright for a bowl of red pottage? Because you had no value in it? If you really understand what it's saying, is that we gave up our birthright for petty stuff. We didn't value it. And now it has come home to roost. Deal of it is, it was done under deceit. Anything that's done under deceit remains colored forever. Therefore, there is no righteous claim of estate. So the conflict that's been going on the earth is a lost estate. And we, after so many generations, have lost consciousness of our estate. That's all that this is about. It is nothing else. That is your politics. This is why when they established their aristocracy off the Red River, and they call it James River, you understand? They renamed Empress, or what you call Montaoka, Rebecca, and they call her Pocahontas. And they set up the first aristocracy. And where did they assassinate her? John Rolfe married her. They were both spies. They were competing for her. John Smith and John Rolfe. She married John Rolfe. The history talks about John Smith. They took her to Gravesend, England, and threw her overboard. And then came back with the son, and it was use of the son from the matriarch that they established the first aristocracy in the North Gate, and that's the beginning of your white supremacy operations at North America under the Spanish Inquisition, taking on the title of white. This is why Ulysses Grant.
And bringing maritime law.
Yeah, exactly.
One lane.
Exactly. And the issue is the theft of your estate. This is why it's important for the Moors to know themselves and to be themselves, because that's the only way that you can have right of claim in any argument. Why? Because treaties and constitutions are covenants. They are wills. They are wills. And so as the will passed down from generation to generation, the heirs must be identified. It doesn't just apply because you read it, because you said it. This is why Obama gave the hint. And he said what? Morocco was the first country to recognize my country. Then he talked about the treaty, the world's longest running treaty. And then these people, brothers and sisters, get into lodge in the Prince Hall, get the truth of root them all by this, and they come out still calling themselves black. They're clandestine.
Yeah. You hear what you said.
And yet they feel victim. They ain't victim, they're clandestine. How do you get that supreme and most illustrious knowledge and then come out and still claim to be black after you've been told about Ruth the Moabitess? And if she was a Moabitess and Joshua was Moabite, and they have hair like lamb's wool, skin like burnished brass, and you have hair like lamb's wool, skin like burnished brass, and you go right into even Noah Webster's, who was one of those ministers dealing with the Knights of Columbus operations, and right in his what? Dictionary, it says that the Americans are the copper complexion people. And then we turn around, they go into them lodges and come out still claim to be black. They're clandestine. And the first thing they'll start talking about, oh, they racist. They don't want the black man to have nothing. You learn about Ruth the Moabitess? Oh, yeah. You been given those tools? Well, yeah. You been given some of the ancient history? Well, yeah. You claim to be black? Well, you know what I mean. No, you clandestine. You know, but they don't see it that way because they're caught up in the schisms.
They ain't telling them.
Huh?
They're not telling them the truth.
It's like this because this is what's happening. If you're using your divine reasoning, you can see it, which means the truth is for you to see. And see, and this is the rule, and this is what I'm saying to you. Again, as we said earlier, it says every man, every woman, and every child, doesn't that cover all age groups? Must, does it say maybe?
No.
Must confess their own and worship under their own vine and fig tree. Now what is that but nationalization? Because national comes from natal. Natal comes from nativity. Nativity comes from the holding of the mother with her son. That's the nativity. And from nativity comes nationality. And without the honor of your mothers and fathers, you have no inheritance. That's not complex. And what happens, we keep making excuses. And as a matter of fact, the more you make the excuse, the more contemptuous you are. Because there is no excuse. Now, we don't see it that way, because we have said, and we don't disagree, that we've been miseducated, right?
Right.
And that we haven't been taught certain things. But the point is that once you recognize that, you must know that the education you have is not qualified to liberate you.
Right, right.
And that the man that put you in servitude is not going to give you the keys to your liberation. Therefore, you accept not his dispensation without consideration. And so the book told them, study all things and keep that which is good. And he also said, what? My people are destroyed by the day for lack of knowledge. And the priesthood keep telling us the lack of prayer, lack of belief. Do they follow the prophets? No, they follow the priesthood and they get lost. But meanwhile, they talking about they got a personal relationship. Well, give me the cell phone number. I like to talk to them too.
I want his bank account. I want his bank account.
Yeah. You know, and the deal of it is everything that they have has not worked.
Bank account.
Well, generation to generation, and then they keep on boasting like we're special. And it's arrogance. It is sheer arrogance. When, you know, the evidence in our communities demonstrate the absolute opposite. And then we put that on the children and get mad at them because they don't fall into the game.
Yeah.
You know, and we need to just stop being hypocrites and start, you know, and start looking at things honorably. You know, so if every man, woman, and child must confess their own, if a child can't make an excuse, can you? Now that comes from the book that everybody say they know. That and all of us have been influenced by them because the books came from our forefathers.
I'm kind of going from the
There you go.
kind of like Sister Naima, coming from a Christian background and raised my kids in it.
Yeah. Now just stop right there. Now, don't hold your question. Hold your statements.
Okay.
Now, so whenever we do anything, we lay foundations, right? Tell me about it. Get in the mic. No, get in your mic.
Get the mic?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah, no,
I'm with you.
Like this.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
All right, now. Now, let's pay attention to this. I want you to get this. When she does this disc, when you get this disc, I want you to study it. Now remember, when we do this, even though we're in this humble house, Dr. Naila works and works and works, and at a loss maintains these classes for years. Yet this DVD, within 6 months, will be in China, in Japan. Because people will call me from them places and talk about different things, about different DVDs, and I don't even know what they're talking about because I don't look at them. But I'm telling you, it will be around the world. But look at yourself and take consideration. And don't, you know, it's not about guilt, it's about us fixing things. And you're saying, now repeat what you said.
No,
about, now I come from a Christian background and I raised my children.
I raised my kids.
Children.
With my children.
Now let's stop there. Now let's stop there. Now let's look at some things. You go to the same books, right? That the people who claim to be Christians have, right?
Right.
And the one they claim to love, Jesus, is known as this. And they say they're following him.
Yeah.
Well, does that spell Christianity?
No.
I want to ask the question again. They all say, They say they love him. The book say that. They say that.
Yeah.
Now, that's what that really is. Now, so when people are making those kinds of claims, right? You don't need to get deeply scholarly with them. Stay with foundation, right? So now for the children and for yourself, tell me about this. Now, the pause means you either don't know or you get ready to pull straws. This
You know what year?
This is it.
What year?
This is it. Now, that's the first to show you that people are making claims when they don't even have a foundation in their own claim. It's not a condemnation of them, but it's the first, before we get into any discussion, to show you how disqualified people are and how they take for granted things when they don't know what they're talking about. And they will spend a lifetime spending finance, sacrificing time, putting services in, and they don't even know the official name of the religion that they're claiming. And that's the official name. The Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. Why is it that the priesthood will never use the official name in those houses? Because it comes obvious who they're really worshiping.
Constantine.
What year?
And they also want to swear, no matter what they want to swear, because they're in the Baptist church, whatever church they may be in, that they're not a part of this. They will swear up and down, no, that's them.
Yeah. Now continue. Now continue.
No,
But go ahead,
some of the
continue.
things that you just said, that really opened my eyes. And I said, something's wrong. I sat in there for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's got to be more to this.
You know that it is. Your heart is open, but then after a while, and this goes for all of us, when we're in those houses for a while, after a while, there's such a guilt trip on you that the things that are really on your mind, you don't want to ask because you already know in your heart that as soon as you ask serious questions, they will start ostracizing you.
And that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
I was called the devil.
Hey!
I mean, they wouldn't, they wouldn't shake my hand.
You supposed
They
to
wouldn't
believe.
greet me. You know what I mean?
All of a sudden, you're a pariah.
Yeah,
With all this love.
Yeah.
Now, this is the deal. See, it's like this. When people know that they promoted a false paradigm, they know that if they allow questions without an attack, that it will collapse. And so will the financial gain and the control systems.
Well, you don't want to see me at the church, brother.
Yeah.
All
I had
Say it again.
The year for the
Say it again.
The year.
the year.
Oh, this is 325 AD. Now, a child again, and this was made up by the Bishopric of Rome at the city of Nicaea. And Constantine and his mother. Now, in Masonic orders, where you may hear this phrase, casting out the window, in different Masonic orders, this has to do with the Nicene Creed area when they were altering the books out of their original tongues. Like when you look at, like you open a Bible and it says translated out of the original tongues with its former translations diligently compared, they're talking about the Nicene Council. A child would recognize that 325 years after Jesus' assassination,
Right.
that he had nothing to do with this construction.
No, nothing.
Nothing.
Do you understand what I'm saying? And this, you can find this in an ordinary dictionary. You don't even have to be a deep scholar. But logically, if they profess the true name of Christianity in the churches, after a while people start talking about Constantine. You talking about Constantine, the Roman ruler? No, that's it. See, it's just that, well, you know, they got a bunch of explanation to do. This is why they will never mention this, but the point that I'm making to you is whether people deal in a church, mosque, or synagogue, people take on belief systems without even studying the foundation upon which they themselves are claiming a stand. And a child can see this. 325 years AD, that means they made this up 325 years after the death of the one they call Jesus, who they accuse of establishing this. And it's obviously a lie. It's two fronts. They say, how can he be a Jew? And then this creed was made up 325 years after him, and then they say he's the father of Christianity, which they do lie and say. Now, the deal of it is this, and it's not an issue of whether this is good, bad, right, or wrong. That's not the issue. The issue is, obviously, it's a lie.
Right.
Meaning that they're misrepresenting the one they call Jesus. Then the other thing you find out, what? Ordinary dictionary too.
You're throwing them out the window.
That's what cast out the window is. Meaning when you start asking poignant questions, their job is to divert you.
And then after that, they'll call them all heretics.
Yes.
And burn them at stake. That's why you got all these people got burned in the Inquisition. Well, it ties right on into what's happening.
Now, that's the name of the one that they call Jesus, but they'll never say this in them houses. Why will they never say that in the houses? Because they actually have been working for Romans who murdered him. And to alter the history, they could not give you the true name. So they voted in 325 to change this to that. And it's not a translation. And it's not a transliteration.
No,
you know, it's like, say Charles is English. German is Carl. Latin is Carlos. It all means Charles, which means noble spirited. Right? Jesus is not a translation of Yeshua. Not just that. The J was not used in language until the 1500s, and it was not solidified in regular use until the 1600s. So automatically a scholar knows there's no ancient Jesus. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it doesn't make what they want to do morally right or wrong. It's because it's not the issue. But they'll make the non-issue the issue in order to support their lie. That they know is a lie. Do you understand? Now the deal with this, as soon as people study their own records, understand this, their own records. Study their own records, immediately the bottom falls out of the whole doctrines. Then the people start examining and they see how Calvin and all of them were arguing over the finance. So now they find how the Protestant, the Methodist, all of this came in, the Baptist, all of these break-off daughters were priests who were arguing amongst the spoils. And that was the break-off, and these were protesters, and this is how you get Protestant circles, Protestant churches. And the people still don't know that the church means a circle. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And they don't know that Constantine and his mother set forth this council where they was altering the scripts that they robbed from Asia Major, which you call Africa, and translated out, not into, out of the original. They don't even hide it. They put it in the first page when you open the book. As a matter of fact, when I was 14, you know, I had a collection of Bibles. You know, I used to collect them when I was little from my library. And I had a library since I was 7 and a half. And my father was a reader. I had Bibles. I had a couple of Bibles with human skin. I had Bibles when King James was Prince James. And the beginning page that used to be in your older Bibles, you don't have it in none of your modern Bibles. The honor that they give to the image of Jesus today was given first to Prince James. Yes. And if people have, that's why they don't let people have them older books. Now, of course, a lot of those books got away from me, and they're absolutely valuable now. Absolutely valuable now. You know, particularly ones with human skin, and the older ones when King James was Prince. And I had old concordance. I had a Septuaginta. I don't think I had the Hebrew. I had the Latin Septuaginta. No, I had the Hebrew Septuaginta. I didn't have the Latin. But I had about 14 Bibles. And I used to, you know, just read them, you know, from back. I usually would read them from the back to the front. And then from the front to back, I get another one and I do that. But I was just habit of reading, not because I was really, you know, I wasn't tempted to be a scholar, so I'm not going to misrepresent it just because I had a library since I was 7 and a half, because my father always read. You know what I mean? But the deal is, I never forgot those things. And when Reverend Brown had me start doing Sunday school, you know, keep the children in, I'd give them facts. For a month and a half, it was fact they needed more chairs, and after a while, they shut it down because we had more people coming to Sunday school than was upstairs. It was true, you know. And that was one of my first experiences when I was 13 and a half of going through the confusion, but also beginning to recognize they don't want the truth out. They got some other agenda. And it took me a while, you know, to figure that out. Because, you know, being young, you don't understand, you think you're doing good. And he asked me, I didn't ask him, you know, because my father used to cut his hair, he'd come around the house and all that stuff, you know, and, you know, they sit around, they talk, playing cards and talk, go to the Bible and stuff, and my father would, you know, bring me in, you know, because you couldn't talk unless parents told you, and he'd bring me in, and he got tired of arguing with them and say, come here, Butch, that was my nickname, and I'd go through the book with him and beat him up, but I didn't know that was, you understand what I'm saying? But I know the books. Because I had them in my library since 7 and a half. So it wasn't no thing to me. You know, my father got the arguing with him, bring me in. You know, and then I would take sculpt lessons to school, and Miss Holman used to run the lessons off on this barrel thing, used to have a blueprint. And I take it, and I was teaching them stuff. I already knew that Jesus was Yeshua. I already knew when Jay came in the language. You know, I knew the Septuaginta. These people didn't know the Septuaginta exists. I mean, so I would give them information, and it was always clashing. Because he'd be going, hey, Jesus, man. I thought he was, didn't, you know, I didn't know, I thought there was something wrong with him. Really, I mean, you know,
Holy Spirit.
But whatever. And facts and that doesn't go together. And it didn't take me long for them to shut down Sunday school, because they assigned me because, you know, the children didn't want to come. And they wanted to play and stuff like that. And so, you know, when he used to come around and get his haircut with Dad and Cousin Theodore and Pete and all them, you know, they'd be talking the Bible and stuff, different things like that. And so Reverend Brown asked my father, you know, would I do Sunday school? It would be all right for him. And so when I did, it became successful overnight, and then they shut it down. My mom cussed him out. My mom was mad at him, because I was hurt. I didn't understand, you know, but I understood later. And that has been my experience traveling through the different houses. But go ahead.
What does that mean up there in the corner?
Hebrew is what you call Jew. Hebrew. Hebrew. You know, and that is us, those of us who cross the river, and this has to do with the Super Devere. When the land was divided between the Hamathites and Cush, that is the Father and the Son, not different people. Do you understand? And those of us who crossed the river was actually the Father, not the sons. So we left them and we came across the river, and that's when the Atlantis was a river. And they'll tell you, you know, Tigris and all those type of stuff, they're talking about Atlantis, before the great earthquake. And so this is what that Jew Rahm Emanuel is talking about. Let me show you Rahm Emanuel when he left the Obama administration, right?
Yeah.
So Rahm Emanuel left the Obama administration, and this was the first thing that he issued from his desk. Now, keep in mind when you go to Philadelphia to the battleground, they built City Hall on it. And City Hall is architecturally designed exactly like a mosque. Yes, it is. With a parapet on the north, got the 4 gates, ETC, north, south, east, and west. You understand? Earth, air, wind, and fire, and the zodiac law of the universe right in the courtyard, clear as day. And then they have statues holding up the pillars of Atlas in the north gate, which is dark. And then as soon as you come out the north gate, there's your Masonic Lodge right there, 1 North Broad Street. All right, anyway. So the deal over there is on your zodiac law,